It's Neocolor's 50th birthday, and Caran D'Ache have launched 5 new limited edition sets. Neocolors are one of my favourite art supplies and I'm really excited by these. So they have launched 5 sets, as I've said. I've only got 4 here. They very kindly sent me the dark set and then I bought the other 3 from the Caran D'Ache website. The one I don't have is called Pop. It's got a lot of pinks and purples that I just don't think I'll use. So I just bought the ones that I know are going to complement my collection best. So just the 4 for me to show you today, but I'm really excited to show you the new colours. So there are 15 new colours in total. It's a shame there isn't a set just with those 15, but I have got all my fingers crossed that they will be launching them open stock, though they haven't confirmed that. So just something to think about if you are a fan of Neocolor and already have all of them, then you might get a lot of duplicates if you buy the new sets. They also sent me this tin which had the 2 little Neocolor candles which made me very happy, and also this book which I'll share on screen, which celebrates the 50th anniversary by curating 50 different artists to create art using the Neocolors. So this is a really gorgeous book full of inspiration. I can't wait to properly read through it, and it's going to give me lots of ideas with the Neocolors today. So as I said, I'm going to be swatching the new sets that I have today. I'll be doing them wet and dry and talking you through the process and just giving you my thoughts on the colours, and then I'm going to create some art using these new palettes. So I really hope you enjoy watching and let's get into the video. So here are the 4 sets that I've got. So we'll start with the one that Caran D'Ache very kindly sent to me. So this set, which is the dark set, was gifted. And these are the colours inside. I'm going to swatch all of these out and then we're going to be creating some artwork from them. But I'll start with swatching. Neocolor IIs are water soluble, so I'll swatch them dry and also wet because they can be watered down. Some really beautiful colours in here. As I said at the beginning, there are 3 new limited edition colours per set. Unfortunately, they're not sold separately, but they were curated into these new sets, and you can see why, because the colour palettes in these individual ones are really, really gorgeous, so they really do lend themselves well. And I specifically picked the sets that I knew I would use the colours from. So this is the dark set. Before I swatch those, let me show you what the other ones look like. This one is the Lush set, which I'm really, really excited about. This was the one, if I had to just pick one, I'd probably go for this Lush set because there's some gorgeous greens and also some really bright pops as well, which is really nice. Really excited to try this limited edition Acuba green. So some really nice colours in here. The next one, which would probably be number 2 on my list, would be the pastels. I do think that pastels are limited in most things, and so I was really happy to see these. The cobalt blue 5% or the light cobalt blue hue is one of my most used colours, but I'm also really excited by this pink and this Amazonite. And then lastly is the portrait set. I say lastly as I mentioned in the intro, there is one other set, which is the Pop, but I decided not to get that one because I didn't think I'd use the colours because there was a lot of purples in there. So I just went with this is the Portrait, as I mentioned. Again, a lovely curation of colours, really nice shades here. And I do think that these will be helpful for me even if I don't do many portraits. Like there's some really lovely browns, which will be great for trees, and then some really nice pops that will work great in a landscape. So those are a quick look at each of the sets, but let's get on to the important part of swatching them and I'll show you them wet and dry. Okay, so we're going to start with the dark set. So first up we've got Pain Grey. I would say normally it's Payne's Grey, but this definitely says Pain. So Pain Grey, which is a really nice dark tone, definitely navy, definitely got that blue tone there. And one of the things I love about Neocolor IIs is their versatility, that you can add water. So I'm just going to swatch this twice because I'll be adding water to this. And it does change the tone a little bit. So if I just wet my brush, you can see more blue tone comes out. And I just really like that. So you can get Neocolor ones, which I find are a little bit harder and you can't use water with them. So although I tend to just use my Neocolors as a pop at the end, I do really like that you can add water. Next in the dark set is Sepia. So this is a very, very dark brown, almost leans black. I'm interested to see how this looks when it's added water. I don't have this in my collection already, so it's nice to have colours that I don't have already because I don't have the whole set. I was gifted a set of 40 for my birthday one year, and then I slowly adjusted it and added my colours one by one from there. So there are definitely colours in these sets that I don't already have. You can definitely see a bit more of the brown coming through there, but it's still very, very dark. It definitely leans a little bit warmer there than it does on the top. So that one's called Sepia. Next up we have Olive Brown. I would say this is I guess this is a brown. It's definitely greeny brown, as olive would suggest. So really nice rich pigment here. I do like Neocolors for that. And it does lighten, really changes there when I've added the water. That's probably the biggest difference. It definitely leans more yellowy when I've added the water. Next up is brown, which was in the original 40 set I've got. I find this one feels a little bit more scratchy and resistant. I think it's something to do with the pigment, so I don't love how this one feels, and you can see on the paper it's really leaving a lot of the Neocolor on the page, so it's much chalkier almost. But I do find all the other ones don't react like this one, it's just the brown for some reason. But again, when I add the water, it smooths it out a lot better, but it's definitely different compared to the other ones. I don't really know why. But still, you can get quite a lot of pigment up there, and it does then turn it into sort of paint. We're now coming on to the limited edition colour. So this is Zinc Ochre. So I'm just going to put that one down. That is a really nice warm ochre. Really nice colour there. And again, I'll wet that. It goes lighter, maybe a bit less pigment there, but really, really nice. Again, it is slightly warmer when I've added on the water. Something I do just want to do is test that new Zinc Ochre, which is this one here, and see how that compares to the other ochres in my collection, in case you have the other ones and want to see if it's worth getting the new colours or the new sets. So this is Zinc Ochre, this here is just ochre, so it's definitely cooler in tone. Quite a big difference there, this is much, much warmer. And then I've also got the Golden Ochre, which is lighter still. So you can definitely see a difference there, zinc, ochre and light ochre. So it is definitely a difference. This is much warmer and more brown, I would say, and definitely more red in there than the ochre. So if you want to compare with what you already have, definitely can see a difference there. So I am just going to mark this with an asterisk. Then we have Alizarin Crimson, another colour I don't already have in my collection. Oh, if I get any bigger, I won't be able to fit them all on the page, so I might have to go a little bit smaller with my swatches. Just add some water there. Oh, that's a lovely red. That's really nice. I don't have many reds in my collection because I don't use them often. You can definitely see a difference there. This is just the red. This is much deeper. It's almost magenta-y when it's dry. Completely changes to a different red when wet. So really interesting to see. This is definitely more like a red wine colour when it's dry. Okay, then we have Moss Green, which I use quite a lot. This is definitely one already in my collection. A really nice green. It's definitely not as warm as the olives, but a really lovely one. So that's Moss Green. Again, lightens up when I add water. Definitely brings out more of the yellow there. Next is Grey. This is definitely a blue toned grey. I do have this one in the set of 40. So this isn't a limited edition colour. But again, that's how it looks with the water. And now these next two colours are limited edition. So we've got Dark Garnet, which is a really nice purple. Again, I don't use purples very much, but as I said, the dark one was sent to me and I'm really glad it was, because I wouldn't necessarily use these colours, but I actually really like them as an alternative dark tone. Really lovely when you add the water. And then we've also got Caput Mortem, which is even darker still. I very, very rarely use black in my work, so it's nice to have alternative dark tones that I could use alongside the other colours I normally do. And the purple tones really come out on that one when you add the water. You don't really see them when it's dry. I would say this kind of just looks like a really dark brown, but when you add the water, the purple tones, more red tones, really come out and shine through. So they are quite similar. This one's more mauvey and this one's definitely darker when it's dry, and both are really rich sort of jewel tones when you add the water. I don't think there's anything that I've got in my collection that are even close to these two to even compare. So that's really nice to see. I am really glad that the new special edition ones aren't anything like what I've already got in my collection. So these ones are the limited edition. So again, just going to mark those with an asterisk. So that was the dark set. Let's move on to the Lush. This is a set I'm really excited about. Okay, so first up we've got Prussian Blue. I don't have Prussian Blue, I don't think. I think I've only got Cobalt Blue. I've also got Night Blue. I think it's Night Blue. So some more colours that I don't have already. I have to go smaller here to fit them on. And I'll just add the water. Yeah, that's a lovely blue. Then we have lilac. This to me isn't lilac. This is definitely a purple. Lilac to me is lighter than that. I think this came in the 40 set. It's not one that I often use, so this is probably the one from this set that wouldn't get much use. But here's how it looks with the water. Then we have a cool tone green. This is dark green. This is like an emerald green, really lovely. Again, another sort of jewel tone. You can see how these three work together really nicely if you were doing a limited colour set, although they are all sort of dark to mid-tones. Wow, I love how that looks with the water. So the next one is a special edition. This one is Skagen Blue maybe? That's a lovely blue. Really rich though. Nice. I can definitely see myself using that, especially with like water. That's really lovely. Again, nothing like any of the colours we already have, so that's really good to see. Then we have another limited edition. So I can always tell if it's limited edition because they do say special edition on the paper on the barrel. So this one is Chrysoprase green, so another new one. And this is a lovely turquoise. Really, really bright and vibrant. I will do a test. That one feels different again. You can see how it's not quite as smooth going on as the blue that we just tested. So again, I think it depends on the wax pigments. That varies from the colour. So, ooh, okay. I don't think that took to the water as easily. It's kind of softer, way more muted. Let's compare this one with some other turquoises in the set. So this one is the new Chrysoprase green here. And then I will swatch that next to the jade green. So that one's slightly more green toned, but I do think this one's softer. That one has a weird feel to it. And then this one is turquoise blue. Oh yeah, that's definitely more blue. So you can definitely see a difference. This one's more blue toned, but it's closer to the jade green, I'd say. Okay, back to our swatch pages, and those two are new. We have another turquoise here. This one's called Veronese green. Another one I don't already have in my collection. That one's greener, I would say. Let's just go back to that other swatch page and put that with the ones I just did, just so we can compare to if you already have these colours to see if it's worth getting in new sets. So I'll put that there. Oh yeah, quite different there actually. This one's more blue toned, and that one sits probably as a darker tone of the jade green. But this one's definitely more turquoise, this one's more green. Okay, that's good to know. Let's add some water here. Yeah, lovely. Then we have grass green. Now this is a green I wouldn't normally use. It's way too unnatural for me. So certainly not a green I would be drawn to, but I'll add the water to it. Yeah, it's just too neon for me, that one. But this next green is the Akuba green, which is the new one. Really, really lovely. I can definitely see myself using that a lot. So I do hope they bring them out individually in the future because I would totally buy this one again. And with the water, oh wow, much more yellow toned when you add the water. So that one is Akuba green, that's new. I will swatch that next to the olive in a minute. Let's just finish swatching this set. So next up we've got light olive 40%. So I can definitely see that pairing nicely with that one. Light olive is probably one of my most used Neocolor shades with the water. That really softens it, almost makes it like a pastel green. And then last up we've got Chinese green, which is a totally new favourite that's taken over my love of lemon yellow. Really like this Chinese green. I've been using it a lot since I came home from Portugal, and with the water. Really nice and vibrant. Let's swatch the Akuba green with the other greens in my collection. Okay, so this is the Akuba green, the new one. And then I've got a little nub of this dark olive, so you can see how it looks next to that. So it's definitely lighter. It's still, I would say this is still a mid-tone. And I put it next to the chromium oxide, which is much more blue-toned green. And of course the olive, which we just had in that new set. So I would say these three are like a dark mid and light tone. So that Akuba green is a lovely middle ground between light olive and dark olive. So I really like that. Okay, so that was the Lush set. Let's move on to the pastel set. First up is the sky blue, which is one of my favourite Neocolor colours. But if you've heard me talk about it a lot before, it's because I hate the name. It's really not sky blue to me. This is more like lavender blue, which is what it's called in French. But I love this for adding pops of colour to my work and my landscapes. Really, really like that. I rarely add water to it. I do tend to just use it as a pop of colour, as a line. This next one is another one I use all of the time. This is Cobalt Blue 5%. It's also called Light Cobalt Blue Hue on my ones that I have. I use this all the time for my skies. Really lovely colour. That's definitely one I always recommend to people. Okay, next we have our first limited edition colour, which is called Amazonite. So I'm going to swatch that there. That's really, really nice. It's kind of like a muted, almost like a turquoisey blue. It's definitely muted in tone. There's nothing I have that's similar to that. Let's just add the water. Okay, not sure how it feels with that water. Again, it's a little bit more, maybe it's because it's muted, it didn't quite go down or glide as smoothly as some of the other tones. So a little bit more of a roughness there. So that's a new one. The next one we also have a new one. This is called Light Heliotrope. This is like a muted sort of pinky lilac. Definitely more pink toned than it looks on the packaging. I thought it'd be more lilac-y. That's lovely. I really like how these 4 colours sit together just on their own. I think that's really nice. Yeah, that's lovely. Again, nothing like any of the other colours I have. I will swatch them next to it just to show you, just to show the difference. So this is the Light Heliotrope. This is the Periwinkle Blue, so much more blue toned. This is pink, and then we've got salmon pink. So it's really nothing like any of the current pinks in the collection. It's definitely much cooler and more blue toned, but not as blue toned as the Periwinkle or the lilac. Definitely more muted. So that's another limited edition. And then we have the third limited edition in the set, again coming up next, which is Peach Blossom. That's a really soft pink. It's not quite as muted. That's really lovely though. I'll put that in with our pink swatches on the other page too. That's really nice. I'm loving this set. This is the Pastel collection, and that's also limited edition. So 3 in a row there. Back to our collection of pinks. Let's see where this one sits. So it's definitely lighter. We've got rose and salmon pink here. So much lighter there. I don't really have a dark pink. So it's really nice to see lighter colours coming in here. So the last 5 in the set aren't new, so I'm just going to run through these quite quickly. We've got Apricot, which I really like. Use this quite a lot now. I've been reaching for this a little bit more than Salmon Pink actually. It's a really lovely orange. Then we have Sahara Yellow. Again, I really like it when you get a lot of light tones in art supplies. I do think that pastel colours are often missed. Next up we've got Pale Yellow, which I don't have in my collection. It's a very cool yellow. You can see how it's a similar tone to the Sahara Yellow, but much cooler. More lemony, I would say. Then we have Lime Green. This is a colour I don't often reach for, again, because it's quite an unnatural green, but I can see how it works so nicely in this colour palette for this set. So that's Lime Green. Lastly, in the pastel collection, we've got Silver Grey. This is one that I bought on a recommendation from TJ, and I really like this for clouds. It's really, really nice. I love this grey. It's got a blue tone to it for sure. And I'll just add some water there. So that's the pastels selection. Definitely see a difference between the top and the bottom row. Top row is a little bit more muted with these, but really lovely, really nice pastel set. Okay, now we're on to the last set, which is the portrait set. So we're starting with white. I'm swatching them in the Royal Talens Art Creation Sketchbook, so it does have ivory toned paper, but I doubt the camera will quite pick that up. Then we have Light Peony Yellow. This is a special edition, so this is one of the new ones. It's slightly lighter than the Pale Yellow. Very, very similar though. I might swatch those together in a minute. I don't even know if that's showing much up on the camera. It's quite similar to the paper that I've already got. So that's a limited edition one. And then we have another limited edition next to that, which is called Conch Pearl. Ooh, that's interesting. That's like a lighter apricot. That's nice. I'll swatch that next to the apricot as well. It is nice having some paler colours. Okay, so that's Conch Pearl. Next we have Salmon. So I do use this one all of the time. Really nice mid-tone pink. It's nice and warm as well, which is what I really like. And that glides on really, really smoothly. Then we have our third limited edition colour for the set, which is called Light Wine Lees. Ooh, okay. I'll swatch that next to that other one from the other set because that feels a little bit warmer, but that's a lovely colour. I like how that looks with the salmon pink and the conch pearl. Interesting, okay. Nice consistency on that one as well. This one was limited edition and so was this one. So those are our three from this portrait set. Next up we've got Crimson Alizarin Hue, which if you'll remember is also in the dark set, which is this one over here. So is it the same? Yeah, it's exactly the same as the one in the dark set, which is, I think, a real miss there. I think they should have had all the new sets with totally different colours, even if not all of them are new. I think they shouldn't repeat in these new sets because I know some people have bought them all. And even if there's some duplicates to what they've got in their collection, I don't think they should have duplicates in these sets. So that's a shame. I now have two of these alizarin crimson hues. I'll just swatch that because it did come in this set anyway. I'm surprised by that one. But I guess they thought it should go in a portrait set. I think a lighter brown would work nicely. Like a really pale brown, because the next one we've got is Russet. This is one I don't have in my collection, but it isn't a limited edition. But I think a really light brown of this, so in between this one and this one, this conch pearl, would have been better than that red. I think that would make it a much more versatile set. Then we have Burnt Sienna. Ooh, that's darker than it looks on the label. That's a lovely brown. I don't have that one in my 40 tin either. So I'll swatch that one. Ooh, that comes out much more red tone, but it does lighten it a little bit. And then we have Van Dyke Brown. Now I do use this one a lot. This is a really nice dark brown. It's quite cool toned, this brown, but it's a lovely dark shade. And I add the water, which lightens it up a little bit. I use that quite a lot for tree trunks. And then last up in this set is Aubergine. Now this is another colour I don't have. I don't really know why this is in the portrait set. I guess there are some sort of purple shadows to a face you could add. But it's quite dark. This bottom row is really, really dark. So I'm just heading back to my swatch page because I wanted to swatch some of these together. So this is the salmon pink, which isn't a limited edition, which I'm going to put next to Conch Pearl, which is new. So you can really see how those complement each other. Both have really warm tones. But I also want to swatch that next to Apricot, which is slightly more orange toned than the salmon. So actually that would also be a darker tone of that. But you can definitely see it's much more orange there. Compared to the Peach Blossom, which is this one, it's definitely not peach in my eyes. That's definitely more, I guess, Cherry Blossom is more pink. I would say that that's not very peachy though. This, to me, the Apricot and the Conch Pearl are more peachy. This, to me, is a peach pink compared to this one. You can really see how much cooler this one is compared to those three shades. So that's really helpful to see. So here are all of the swatches from the 4 limited colour palette sets that I have from Caran D'Ache's 50th special edition. So the one that I am missing is Pop. But I'm really happy with some of these colours. There are some really gorgeous ones here. I do really like how they work as a colour palette on their own. I can see why they've done it in sets, but I do think it will be helpful if they come out with open stock of the special edition ones in the future, especially for people who have all of the ones anyway. To then have a lot of these duplicates I don't think works. I was really disappointed that we've got 2 duplicates here. I don't know how many people are going to buy all of these new sets or just pick one, but to have this alizarin crimson twice, that is a real shame for me. So I'll put some close-ups on here. I'm really, really excited by that Akuba green and also the dark garnet. I think that will be really interesting to use with some of my darker tones. I'm really happy with the pastel set, especially this top row here. I think that's really, really lovely. It's a really cool toned colour palette. I probably wouldn't use the bottom row as much, but I'm really happy with the new shade. So that's the Amazonite and the light heliotrope. I think those are lovely. I would have liked Peach Blossom to be a little bit warmer, I think. Down in the portrait set, you can really see a difference between the top row and the bottom row. I really think there needs to be a mid-tone in there. So we've kind of got lights and then we've got darks. So I think some middle ground would be helpful for that set. But I suppose the beauty of the Neocolors is you could mix them together. So you can always scribble these onto a palette and then add water and mix up your own shades. So lots of options there, and I think there are some really lovely new colours. I think what I like most is that they are very different to what's already out there. So I think they're a really good addition. I'm really happy with the sets that I bought. And now I know this is a really long video, but I also want to show you them in practice. So I'm going to be doing some little panels using just the colours in these sets. And I'll do a little voiceover, talk a little bit more about Neocolor IIs and what I think about using them. So if you want to know the basics about Neocolors and some FAQs, then I do have a video on my channel. It's actually the most popular video on my channel. It's got the most views, so I'll leave that linked up in the cards and in the description. But I really love Neocolors. As I said, they are water soluble, so I'm going to be testing them out in this art as well, both with water and without. In the video that I've linked, I use them without water, and they are soft enough that you can blend them. You can really layer them on top of each other. And here you can see where I'm adding on the water just to soften out some of those edges. So that's something I really like about them. If something goes wrong when I've put on a Neocolor, I think I like the fact that I can soften it with water and it's not the end of the world. So I really like their versatility, and you'll see that I'm going to try and use all of the colours in these smaller panels. I'll leave the references that I used where I have used them from copyright-free sites down below. There is one that I did from my own photo, but I tried to pick subjects that worked with the colours. So this one had that gorgeous red, so that's why I picked this tomato. And I think that worked really nicely because the darker ones could work with the background, so although the image was a lot lighter, I was able to change it. I don't often work with limited palettes, and obviously this isn't that limited, there are 10 in this set, but it was really nice to have this set colorway for me, so I didn't have to think about what would work. And I think that does work really nicely when there are limited edition sets, if you're happy with those colours. Sometimes when you buy multi-sets there will be colours that you don't use, and that's why I didn't buy the pop set. So you can see here I'm just adding on the swatches down the side. And yeah, I really love the dark set. I think I'm going to get a lot of use out of this. Onto the Lush set now. I keep going back and forth between the dark and this one being my favourite. I think this one does trump it though. I absolutely love the sort of tropical vibes with this one, and I could really see the greenhouse, tropical palm house vibes coming through. So that's the image that I picked, and I did reference an image I took in the Palmen house when I went to Vienna on my little solo art retreat, but I didn't end up referencing it much because I really felt like I could just go wild with my pattern making, so I barely looked at the photo at all. I just had a lot of fun with these colours. I'm really happy with that green, that Akuba green. I love the way it looks with the light olive and also the Chinese green, and as we saw with the swatching, I think it works really well as a mid-tone between light olive and the darker olive. I also really like how it pairs with the turquoises and even the purple. Although I don't use purple much, I do think that it works with this set. So again, limited colour palette works really nicely. Even this green doesn't look out of place, even though that is very much not my vibe of green. It does work really nicely in this set, so I do think they've curated them really nicely, except for maybe the portrait set, but perhaps because I didn't use it for a portrait, that's why I wasn't sure. But I also really love this dark blue. I used it here as kind of a negative space, so I was carving around it because I didn't really have like a brown for the tree trunks. So I just left that as the white of the page, and I think that works really nicely. You can see where it's softening the Neocolor where there was some water down, and also blending on top, so really filling in some of those gaps. But I think that's really nice. It just adds extra texture, and I like the contrast of the harsh lines with the softened marks where I had added water with my paintbrush. Okay, now we're on to the pastel set. There were a few colours in here that are my top favourites anyway, so obviously the sky blue and the light cobalt blue hue, which I'm using here for a sky. I am doing a landscape with this one, so usually I am a landscape and nature-based artist, though this is the only panel where I did do a landscape. I really like that Amazon night for the sort of hills in the distance. It's like a really soft green, so I think that works really well for adding depth, and I can definitely see myself using that in gardens and obviously with landscapes like this one. The other pastels, so the ones that were on the second row, were a little bit kind of twee for me. I feel like they're a little bit twee, but I do love the muted tones of the new ones. So I think that they do pair really nicely together, but certainly I'll be getting a lot more use out of the newer ones, the limited edition ones, than I would with like that green or that yellow. The apricot is a favourite of mine anyway, and I really love how it pairs with this pale yellow. The only other yellow that I have which is kind of similar is Sahara yellow, but I think this one is slightly deeper and I really like it paired with that apricot. I did use the silver grey, so I'm putting some fence in here, but you'll see later on I don't love that. And the beauty of the Neocolors is you can either add water to soften it and get rid of it, or you can go on top, and that's what I ended up doing. So I kind of just merged over it with some other colours, and then I defined it a bit more with my sky blue later on. So some really lovely areas in this one, even though it does feel a little bit pastel-y for me. It feels a little bit like I have changed the colours quite a lot, which obviously I have, but it just doesn't quite feel like me. I think I would tend to use some of these brighter pastel colours for pops of colour rather than using it for the whole landscape. But as I said, I do really like the more muted tones of the new limited edition pastels. Okay, and finally we are onto the portrait set. So I am using that red, the alizarin crimson for the border. Again, like I said, I am a little bit disappointed that this is a duplicate. Luckily it is a gorgeous red. I do really like this red. It doesn't feel completely unnatural like the actual red, which is what it's called, Neocolor, that I had in my 40 set. This one feels a lot nicer, and I do think I will use it, especially for like when I'm drawing the garden and doing the tomatoes. I think that worked really nicely there. So for this one I am doing a still life. Again, I'll leave a link to the reference down below. I'm changing the colours quite a bit just to work with the portrait colours. I didn't feel comfortable doing a portrait, so I decided to see how this set would work with something that wasn't that, and I do think it works great. So I don't think you have to be tied in to do portraits with this colour set, and I think it works really nicely. It's always really fun to change the colours up anyway. It's not something I do often, but I do think it's a really good challenge. If you do already have a big set of Neocolors, then I don't think you need to rush out and buy these, because you would end up with a lot of duplicates. So I think it's really important to see what you already have versus what are in these sets. For me, because I started out with the 40 and there are now 99 colours I think there are with this extra 15, then you don't need to have these as well. So if you have the 84 set anyway, which is all of the colours minus these new 15 ones, then you don't necessarily need these because there would be duplicates. So I would recommend checking beforehand before you buy all of the new sets, because at the moment you can't get them open stock. I also just wanted to keep this bit in here because when there is some smudging, obviously with Neocolors you can get smudging around the page. I just used an eraser to get rid of that on the page, and that works beautifully. So it's just a little tip: if you do find that you smudge them quite a lot, you can quite easily clean that off with an eraser. I do get quite a lot of questions about keeping my pages clean, and Neocolors are renowned for smudging, but I just use some deli paper or some lightweight scrap paper in between my pages, about 5 or 6, which I then move throughout the sketchbook because I find it's the pressure of working on the other side that causes that to transfer. So just some scrap paper in between my pages sorts that out fine. But that's everything. A huge thank you if you made it to the end of this video. I know it was a long one, but I hope it was helpful. I had a lot of fun trying out these new sets, and hopefully it's helpful for you to see as well. A big thank you to my patrons for their support. Thank you for watching. Leave a crayon emoji if you got right to the end, and I will see you next Sunday in my new YouTube video. See you later.